Yeah, I wanted to talk about Hell Week.
Sure.
Was there ever, because everybody's mind will like tell them like, hey, my body's gonna just shut down if I don't stop right now, and and then you just got to push through that because the threshold is way further than people think.
No.
So was there ever a time during that week that you were like, man, my fucking body is like, I don't know if it's gonna go tomorrow?
Yeah. I wouldn't say I hit one of those thresholds. What I'd say is I don't think a lot of people can kind of appreciate where Hell Week kind of falls in the continuum of the program. So you've already been at the training center for 3 months, maybe 2 months if you came like the day before a class started. But I'd been there because when I checked in, you've been almost there 3 months of just getting crushed. Your class has probably lost 100 candidates before you get to Hell Week. So you're already broken. You're predisposed to stress fractures. You probably got some type of pneumonia at that point. I mean, you're not going into Hell Week like prime time game ready. You're broken, and then that thing starts on Sunday, finishes on Friday. You go on a 24-hour clock. There's 3 sets of instructor shifts that run that day. You start on Sunday. You don't sleep at all until Wednesday. You get about an hour and a half nap on Wednesday. If you knew what you were going to feel like after that nap, you skip it. Thursday, you get another nap. Friday, you graduate. So it's just cold, wet, miserable, working hard the entire time. I would say I enjoyed it more than I had a bunch of like fail points where I thought things were going to go wrong. I would say by Wednesday or Thursday night, I had something going on in my knee. In hindsight, it wasn't anything serious. It damn sure felt serious with a big boat on your head and running next to your boys and covering ground. So I was worried something was going to go wrong there because they can pull you. For the guys that are going to make it, the thing you worry about the most is having a medical issue because you can't control that. So I remember being a little concerned about that, but not to the point that I thought I couldn't suck it up. I wouldn't say the program wasn't hard enough to ever get me to my break point, but like I said, for most of the guys that make it, it doesn't. It's just they feel like they're in the right place. I do remember Thursday night, you do a final paddle basically around the entire island of Coronado. So you start out in the ocean almost by Mexico, you paddle all the way up through the mouth of the bay and then back around to the compound. And Thursday night's when people start kind of hallucinating because they're just so punchy from no sleep. And I never really got the good hallucinations, but I remember I'm steering my boat and one of my officer buddies starts paddling so hard it's like jerking the boat to the right. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? He's like, we gotta go right now. And I was like, all right, what's happening? He's like, that clown's gaining on us. And I was like, what? He's like, that clown on the bicycle is gaining on us. And we're in the ocean. And I didn't see a clown, but I remember turning around to see if there was a clown, because I was so tired, and there wasn't. And then somebody else thought an aircraft carrier was gonna roll over on top of us. And I remember as we came into the bay, I think it was the Coronado Bridge that goes over from San Diego proper onto our island. All the pilings, I think at a distance, just because my eyes were so tired, I thought there was a fence like across the bay. And I remember committing real energy to like, how are we going to get this boat over this fence? I mean, what a pain in the ass. The instructors probably put that fence over there. I don't remember a fence being here. Maybe we can push the boat over the fence or like deflate it a little bit and get it under the fence. So, I mean, you're hurting by the end, but no, kind of like I described at the beginning. I just felt like I was home. It was one of those, and it's also the week where, sort of, this is your stamp, unless you do something dumb after that. Like if you're terrible underwater, which haven't played water polo, I knew I wasn't going to be, or you do something dumb with a gun or bombs or something like that, and you just don't feel like you're going to be a good teammate, you make it to that Friday, you're probably going to be a frogman.
Yeah.
So I think it was just excitement, But my dad saved an answering machine recording that he sent me recently, and it's got me calling him on Sunday. This is like right when cell phones are coming out, but be like, hey, Dad, I'm about to go into Hell Week, feel good, ready to rock it. Sure hope you don't hear from me until Friday. And then hung up the phone. And then he's got the next voicemail was me just being like, hey, Dad, I made it. All good. My body's hurting. Talk to you tomorrow. I'm just like beat up and like busted. But it's kind of cool to hear those two voices of somebody that like felt pretty good on Sunday and was a different voice on Friday. But super excited to have, gotten that in the rearview mirror.
Yeah, I bet it was like one of those I'm glad that's over with.
It's a cool feeling. It's a cool feeling.
I bet it feels fucking, it's kind of like how training camp always was.
Yeah.
It was like every fucking year, dude, we got to go through this stupid fucking training camp. And it's like, it's just one of those, you have to do it, right? Because it's like, it's like it's part of the fucking thing, game. You got to make it through training camp. All right. Nobody, it doesn't matter who you are.
Yeah,
nobody gets a pass on training camp.
Right,
it's a rite of passage. It's going to suck.
Yeah.
And you're going to have, days where you're like, I don't want to fucking go today.
Yep.
Like I don't want to get up and go today.
Yep.
But you have to.
Yeah.
You're going, it's all day long. It's part of being, I call it getting calloused.
Yeah.
you got to get calloused up for the fucking long haul this season. Like the season is long, and you got to get calloused.
Yeah.
And training, the only way to get into football shape is to play football.
Play the game.
You know, it was probably the same way. And fucking,
it is.
You can't. I don't care how many laps you swim in a pool. Nothing's gonna get you ready for an actual fucking
you got to get
water
a couple
polo
games
game.
in. That's right. That's right.
It doesn't matter how much weight you lift, how many fucking sprints you run, how many fucking sleds you pull and push. When it comes down to it, man, it's you got to go against another dude over and over and over again and compete and feel that heat, that 90-degree fucking heat.
Yeah, man.
And that humidity, and you got to feel that suck.
Yeah.
And you know, I always compared athletes to veterans not because of the like there's a huge difference when it comes to combat and everything, but it's the same mentality when it comes to game time.
No, it never bothered me when I heard, you know, either football players or folks that play particularly combative sports when they almost use the metaphor, hey, we're going to war. I get it. It doesn't hurt my feelings.
Well, especially because they use like, you know, John Fox, our head coach, John Fox, when I first got here, his dad was a SEAL. Yeah. So he fucking had SEALs in here talking to us.
There you go. Yeah.
You know, he had like Marcus Luttrell come in and talk to us. You know, he had a bunch of fighter jets coming in and talking to us and shit like, or fighter jet pilots. And those guys, like, the fucking mentality is the same. Yeah. It's the same
it's the same
mentality.
Thing. Yeah.
Different stakes. Yeah. Obviously.
Yeah.
Same mentality when it comes. But I think it's great because you never went into combat thinking, oh, like if you're worried about dying or you're worried about it's the same way with football. If you're worried about getting hurt, you're going to get hurt.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. If you're thinking about that, you're manifesting it. And anytime I ever went into a game thinking, man, something's not feeling right. Like I might get hurt in this game. Well, what do you know? I fucking did.
Exactly.
I would definitely something would happen. Yeah, so I always went into, no matter what was going on, I went into every game thinking I'm 100%. Yep. I am, even though you're not. You're not, but you convince totally yourself. Agree. Yeah. And that what I loved about those guys was that they always talked about what you think about in your mind, what you think about, and what you're like convinced. You can just lie to yourself.
You can.
You have to just lie to yourself. Yep. Like it's almost. It's almost crazy. You tell people that and you're like, what do you mean you lie to yourself? I'm like, dude, you lie to yourself. You tell yourself that you are the best. Yep. And you're not going to you're fine. Like you are fucking trust your training. Everything's going to be fine. Go out there and play your ass off and everything will work out. And that was like that's the way I played. And I loved it. You know, like I never played timid or scared or anything like that. And was it the same way with combat? Was it like you trusted your training? So you never went in. I mean, I'm sure there was always like a little bit of anxiety. I had a coach one time tell me, are you nervous or anxious? And I was like, I'm anxious. And he was like, good. Yeah. He said, because nervous means you're scared. Right. There's some fear there. He's like, you're just anxious because you want to get to it. You want to get there. Yeah. Did you ever feel nervous going into combat or did you ever feel, was it always like an anxious feeling?
I think it's more, that description's a better capture of it. I mean, I remember talking to my family before the first time I deployed to what was going to be a very, very heavy.
When was your first deployment?
I deployed pre 9/11, so 2000, 2001. I did about a deployment and a half to Central South America and some of those locations for pre 9/11. 9/11 happened on one of those deployments. We thought we were going straight to Afghanistan, and the nightmare was we actually had to still maintain our responsibility there. So another team got to go before us, which killed you. Little did I know how much we were going to see in the next 2 decades. So I didn't miss any of it. I probably hit the lottery. I talked about it with a teammate of mine the other day. My peer group, about 1 or 2 before me, 1 after me, which means a year group that kind of came in and started their career. Those guys saw more combat than anybody in the history of this country, just literally a decade and a half of chasing bad guys. So the real intense stuff, 2003, 2006, kind of those windows of time, which was just, some of those are super famous deployments. I mean, that was, Jocko and Chris Kyle and, that whole team was all there together, just different units, but different parts of that in those deployments in 2006. And I remember in particular that deployment, which we knew was going to be ugly and that therefore we were excited about it, but we knew it was going to be heavy. And that there's a very good chance that everybody's coming home. I remember having a conversation with my mom, this job's tough on the moms. I remember having a conversation with my brother who we've been thick as thieves since day one, to this day. My favorite running mate of all time. And I remember telling him really, if I fell or something went wrong, just not let mom descend into, hate and
Despair,
sadness. Nobody told me to go do this. I'm excited to go. But I remember the toughest conversation with my dad, because my dad's dad was killed in the Pacific Theater of World War II. So he was a B-24 Liberator guy. He was killed in an accident there in World War II. And I was like, man, I hope I don't fall just so my dad doesn't have his life bookended with like his dad and a son dying in combat. Like that'd be the worst. I was probably more worried about that than I was worried about myself, So no, I think any anxiety I felt, like you're saying, was less getting killed or getting hurt. It was just failing your teammate. I don't care what anybody has ever written about war, written about, skill, ability, talent, particularly in the combat theater. In the end, the entire reason you're there for the fight, the rightness of it, the wrongness of it, whether we should be doing it, shouldn't be doing it. No one on any battlefield has ever, drawn a sword, frankly, for their nation. They've done it for the dude to their right and left. Yep. And so that's the person you keep faith with. And if it was a SEAL teammate, all the better, because I knew what he was capable of. If it was a Boy Scout sitting there with a rifleman's badge and he was shooting with me at a bad guy, I would have been, you're a brother for me right now. Let's get out of here.
Yeah,
together.
we're fighting for each other.
Yeah, for sure. So no, never any fear wouldn't be the right word. It was always knowing we knew how to do the job. Our training, it's the same. I'm sure it's the same thing at the elite level football. Like I'm sure there's not an offensive defensive set you didn't know back to front. There's not a lot of, maybe somebody tricks you with a good move, but like they're doing something new.
Yeah.
Like, what like we know how to do this job. We are masters of the combat arts. And so on top of that fact, all our guys are bigger, meaner, stronger, and tougher than you. So if you want to get it on and toe the line, we'll ring the bell. Like our guys are ready.
Mike Tyson said it, man. Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth.
And look, they found, this has been talked about before, but we found transmissions from the Taliban in Afghanistan being like, hey, you see 30 dudes all in a combat line, all dressed the same type fatigues, kind of walking up through a canyon, go hit them. You see a dude with half of them have beards, two of them have like hats on backwards. You see a guy that's in shorts. Do not shoot at those dudes. Do not engage. Like the entire valley is about to explode into fire. You're going to pay if you hit those guys.
Yeah.
And it was, like you said, it was a mindset. I never went into one of those engagements thinking we were going to lose.
Yeah.
I just
you can't have that mentality.
Yeah. Yep.